intervals, that is the interval between two pregnancies or two babies, right? Controls the time at which the birth occurs and determine the number of children in the family. Our aim is to have a small family. Small family dike aim kora hoye, family planning methods are provided for basic human rights, under basic human rights. So what is the scope of family planning? Proper spacing and limitation of births, advice on sterility, education on the parenthood, sex education, screening like cervical cancer, okay, genetic counseling, premarital consultations, carrying out pregnancy tests, marriage counseling. এই সব কিছুতে you are having the scope of advocating or advising or counseling the patient about family planning. In all of these scopes, in all of these problems that a patient can have, they will be a scope or the advocacy for family planning so that the patients or the clients are aware about them. So what are the health aspects? Women's health, child health and fetal health. Women health ki kore affect kore if you do family planning? Maternal mortality কমাতে পারে, morbidity of women of childbearing age সেটা কমাতে পারে, right? Nutritional status and pregnancy abortion এর মতো preventive complications, okay? Fetal health, it can decrease the fetal mortality. যদি মা প্রচন্ড high risk থাকে, then there can lead to fetal mortality. So adequate family planning methods can prevent that. And infant and child health like infant, neonatal and under 5 mortality টাকে prevent করে. Health of the infant and birth, it affects that. And vulnerability to diseases are also affected by this. So family planning has all this utility among the patients ranging from the reproductive age woman to the child health. So what are the contraceptive methods? We will start with that. Contraceptive methods at a definition boite আছে তোমাদের. They are preventive methods to help women avoid unwanted pregnancies and include all temporary and permanent measures to prevent pregnancy resulting from coitus. Okay, but these methods are now applicable obviously for men and women similarly. So there is the cafeteria approach. Cafeteria approach means you will offer a load of options about contraceptive practices to the clients. You will advise or inform about the pros and the cons about those methods, and then what happens is the patient or the client will select which contraceptive will be the best for them. You will guide them towards it, but the decision has to be taken by the clients. So that is the cafeteria approach, that is a counseling method. So there are two types, that is the spacing or temporary methods or terminal and permanent method. Okay, so these are the spacing or the temporary methods. They are barrier methods, intrauterine devices, hormonal devices, post-conceptional devices and miscellaneous. ওইদিকে যারা কথা বলে যাচ্ছ কন্টিনিউয়াস, তোমরা সবাই ক্লাস থেকে নয় বেরো, নালে চুপ করে থাকো. I cannot hear myself or they cannot hear me. Spacing or temporary methods, they are barrier method, intrauterine devices, hormonal pills or hormonal methods, post-conceptional methods and other methods like natural methods. Okay, and there are some terminal or permanent methods like male sterilization and female sterilization. So this is the broad classification. If you are asked how many types of contraceptives are there, you will classify them into two and then list the types of contraceptives. So we will start with the barrier method. They are physical barrier methods, as we saw, physical, chemical and mixed. So physical is condom, diaphragm, vaginal sponge. Okay, condom, diaphragm and vaginal sponge. So condom er ki ache, made of latex. Failure rate is a little bit high, 3 to 14 per 100 women years. Okay, mostly due to incorrect use. Method, what is the method? This method you need to know because you have to advise it to the patient, because someone will come and say that okay, I'll take a condom and prevent unwanted births, but then how to use? Okay, because patients come with this type of query. So you have to tell the method of using. That is, a condom is fitted on the erect penis before intercourse. The air must be expelled from the tip of the condom. Okay, at first you have to hold the tip of the condom, expel the air from it and make room for the ejaculate. Then the condom must be held carefully while withdrawing it from the vagina to avoid spilling seminal fluid into the vagina after intercourse. A new condom should be used for each sexual act. So all these things, all this advice, each line is very important so that there is prevention of unwanted pregnancy, because of incorrect use only there is a failure rate, and because of incorrect use only, even after using condom they will complain that, that there is an unwanted pregnancy. So to teach them the correct way of using. Commercial outlets and also part of the social marketing program. Okay, it can be available commercially in the shops, or it is under social marketing program under the government. It is available in all public health centers, right from the sub-center level to the district hospital. And it is obviously, of course, of single use, not multiple use. You have to tell the patient that, okay, that it is of single use. One condom should be used only one time. So how to put on a condom? It is a diagrammatic representation. Open with the hands, look for the ribs. First see that it is okay or not. Then make sure it is not inside out. Okay? Then pinch the tip, expel the air, and then roll on the erect penis. So this is how you have to tell the patient that this is how you use the condom. And then while holding the condom, you have to then take the penis out of the vagina after intercourse, so that it is not spilling into the vagina and causing unwanted pregnancy. What is the advantage? It is easily available, safe and inexpensive, easy to use, no medical supervision, no side effects, light, compact, disposable, and protection against the sexual transmitted diseases also. But what are the disadvantages? It can slip off and tear, and there can be incorrect use also, high chance of incorrect use, may interfere with sexual sensation for some, and others may get used to it. So many find this unsatisfactory while using it, and not used regularly and correctly. So these are the main disadvantages for which unwanted pregnancy can occur. Otherwise, it is very easily available and easy to use if known how to use it correctly. Then again, there is the, now we had seen the male condom, now there is a female condom or the femidome. This is reusable, okay. A female condom is a pouch like that made of polyurethane which lines the vagina. There is an internal ring and there is the external ring. Internal ring, and as you can see, there is a pouch like structure in the internal ring. It is in the close end of the pouch, covers the cervix. This external ring will cover the outside of the vagina, okay, the clitoris. That will cover the outside. So it will line the entire vaginal canal. It is pre-lubricated with silicone, and effective barrier to STD, spermicide is not required in this case. With condom you can use spermicidal jelly, but with this spermicidal jelly is not required. However, the high cost and acceptability are major problems, and failure rates vary from 5 per 100 to about 21. So 5 to 21, there is the failure rate or the Pearl index of the female condom. So then again, this is a diagrammatic representation. There is an outer ring, it is covering the opening around the vagina, and the inner ring, the pouch end ring, that will cover the tip of the cervix, okay. And this is how it should be covered. The outer ring should be lining outside the wall of the vagina, okay. Next comes the diaphragm. It is reusable, 5 to 10 centimeter in diameter. Trained personnel is required to fit. After delivery only can be used after involution of the uterus. And toxic shock syndrome can be caused if it is left in a longer duration. So what is the diaphragm? How is it used? It is inserted before sexual intercourse and must remain in place for not less than 6 hours after sexual intercourse. So it is something that is again lining the vaginal tip of the cervix. It is preventing the it is acting as a barrier between the uterus and the vagina. So that is there as a barrier at the cervix, okay. A spermicidal jelly is always used along with the diaphragm. The diaphragm holds the spermicide over the cervix. Side effects are practically nil, but there is a failure rate of 6 to 12, okay. So it is just a barrier around the cervix so that whatever is deposited outside the vagina cannot enter the uterus. Then there is a vaginal sponge, another physical barrier method. There is a brand name today, okay. There is no STD prevention in the vaginal sponge because there is no physical latex barrier or any other barrier. It is composed of the non-oxynol 9. There is a polyurethane, it is a polyurethane material of that diameter 5 by 2.5 diameter of the size, and the failure rate is very high, 20 to 40 per what? 100 woman years, right? 20 to 40 per 100 woman years in multiparous, and in nulliparous it is 9 to 20. Okay? So this is a vaginous pus that is kept inside the vagina, but it is not like creating a physical barrier method. It is there, but it has a high failure rate, so it is always used with the spermicidal jelly. Then there is a chemical methods. You can only know the names: foams, creams, jellies and paste, suppositories and soluble films. Okay, these are not used very widely, especially not under government, but only the spermicidal jelly is a chemical method that is available publicly. Now we move on to the next spacing method, that is the intrauterine device. Now this is a very important part, and many questions can come from all parts, like in your theory, in your viva, in your spotter, in anything it can come. Firstly, there are 3 generations of intrauterine device: non-medicated first generation, then there is a copper lined intrauterine device, that is the second generation, and there is a hormonal, that is the third generation. It is made up of usually polyurethane, that copper T. So this is a diagram again. This Lippis loop, this is the first generation. All the coppers are the second generation, and then this progestasert and levonorgestrel, these are the third generation, that is consisting of hormone. Okay. So what is the first generation? Loops, spirals, rings, balls, coils. There were many things that are not in use today. Okay. D is the largest size. Larger the size, more anti-fertility effect. Then small amount of barium sulfate for radio opacity as well, so that it is visible in the imaging that the copper T is there. But it used to create a lot of side effects, so then we move on to the second generation. That is the earlier devices. At first the second generation came with copper, but the devices were named like copper 7, copper T200. That is the surface area was less. And then newer devices came like 220C, 380A or AG. Okay. Then there is the Nova T, multi-load devices like copper 250 and copper 375. So these are the types of second generation copper T that are available with the government. Nowadays, the copper T380A or AG, this is the most widely available copper T that is in the government sector. Okay. Now this is just a brief description of what all this means. Copper T380A, it is a T-shaped device with a polyurethane frame holding 380 millimeter square of copper, right? Exposed surface area of copper. The IOD frame contains barium sulfate, thus making it radio opaque. Then 380 AG, what is it? It is identical to the 380A except that the copper wire on the stem has a silver core to prevent the fragmentation and extend the durability and the period of effective use of the copper. Okay, there is a silver coat there that is preventing the breakdown, so it lasts longer in the uterus. Okay, it is lasting longer in the patient, it is of more effectiveness in the patient. Then there is a multi-load 375, it has 375 millimeter square of copper around the stem, only around the stem, not around the arms. In the copper 380, there is around the stem and the arms of the copper T also. The copper is there, but in the 375 there is only around the stem and the arms are like rounded. Okay, the arms are rounded because it is flexible, to increase the flexibility. The flexible arms are designed to minimize expulsion so that the copper T is not expelled out of the uterus very spontaneously, so to prevent that the multi-load device is used. Okay, it is similar in their efficacy and performance. And Nova T, you will hear of this term. It is similar to the copper T200 containing 200 millimeter square of copper. However, the Nova T has a silver core again, prolonging the shelf life. So the effectiveness, how long do they last in the patient? Copper T200, it used to last 4 years. Copper T375, that is multi-load, for 5 years. But the longest time or the duration of use for copper T380 is 10 years. So it is the longest lasting. That is why it is available in the government. And Nova T again for 5 years. Uses, advantage, what is the advantage of the copper device? It is low expulsion rate, okay? Lower incidence of side effects than the first generation, that is pain and bleeding. Easier to fit even in nulliparous women and better tolerated by the nulliparous woman. Increased contraceptive effectiveness because of the copper and effective as postcoital contraceptives is inserted within 3 to 5 days of unprotected intercourse. So it is also acting as a emergency contraceptive if inserted within 5 days of the unprotected intercourse. So this is just, I will just show the diagrammatic representation of what is there in the copper T. There is the copper T itself that is having an arm, horizontal arm with copper wrapped around it, and the vertical arm with copper wrapped around it, and there is a thread. And then it is provided with these two devices. That is the insertion tube. It is like a straw. Okay, it's like a plastic straw and has a phalange on it. Phalange is basically a block. You can measure the length of the uterus with that phalange. And another thing is there, that is a solid rod which is acting as an inserter inside the insertion rod. You will use it inside that straw-like structure to insert the copper T. So we will see in the diagram how is it used. Firstly, you load this copper T by folding the arms and placing them inside the insertion tube. So what will happen is, this arm that is there, you will fold it vertically and then insert it within that insertion tube or the straw-like structure. Okay, do not load more than 5 minutes before inserting the IUD in the uterus, and then the IUD arms remain folded. If they are folded for more than 5 minutes, then it will be bent and it will not insert properly in the uterus. So just before insertion only you load the copper T. Okay. Then what happens is, insert the IUD into the vagina. How? Firstly, you have to catch the cervical lip, right? And you have to open and make the way for insertion of that copper T. So what will you do? Gently grasp the tenaculum. There is a speculum for visualization, and then you are grasping the tenaculum, that is the cervix, and insert the loaded IUD without touching the vaginal walls or the speculum blades. Then what you do, you advance the IUD into the uterus. Gently advance the loaded IUD into the uterine cavity, that is the straw-like feature that you have loaded. Okay. Stop when the blue depth gauge comes in contact with the cervix or light resistance is felt. So it will be stopped at the cervix, that is, it will block it. So at that point you will know that you have entered the uterus. Hold the tenaculum and white plunger rod stationary while partially withdrawing the insertion tube. Now you will just try to insert the tube, but you will hold the rest stationary. This releases the arms of the copper T. The copper T arms were inserted at the top of that straw. So what will happen, if you pull that insertion tube or the straw, the copper T arms will be released. Okay. Then gently push the insertion tube. You are pushing the insertion tube to see whether there is any slight resistance or not. So these steps ensures the placement of the copper T high in the uterus. Then step 8, remove the plunger rod. You now remove the plunger rod while holding the insertion tube stationary. Now you hold the tube stationary or the straw stationary and then withdraw the insertion rod from there. So what happens is, partially withdraw the inserter, then gently and slowly withdraw the inserter tube from the cervical canal until the strings can be seen protruding from the cervical opening. Okay, so you have to make sure also that the strings are outside the cervical opening. They are coming outside the cervical opening. Because the string is how you check whether the copper T is placed in the uterus correctly or not. That is for the patient to check also. Then you cut the IUD strings. Use sharp Mayo scissors to cut the IUD strings at this length, okay, from the cervical opening. And if scissors are dull, IUD strings may get caught in blade. So you have to cut with a sharp scissor. Then completely withdraw the insertion tube with cut ends of the string inside. So now you take out all the insertion tubes and the rods, and then the copper T is placed inside. After that, what will happen is, you then release the patient's tenaculum and the speculum, and then the patient will be taking rest and seeing whether complications are occurring or not. Okay. So this is a step of IUD insertion. Now the third generation, that is the hormonal, there are two types mainly, the Progestasert and the LNG levonorgestrel 20, or commercially called Mirena. So Progestasert, what it is there, 38 milligram progesterone is loaded in that copper T. Insertion process is kind of the same. Okay, it is already there. You do not have to load anything because the inserter is already placed like that. You just have to click a button and then withdraw and it is inserted. So it is in that there is a progesterone 13 milligram and the release rate is 65 microgram daily release and removed every 1 year. So it is very, the patient will not adhere to it, or there may be problems coming and changing every year. So what is there? The most used hormonal IUD is the Mirena. It releases 20 microgram levels of levonorgestrel every day and removed every 10 years. Okay, I think there is the 65 milligram of LNG20 loaded, and 20 means every day it is releasing 20 microgram of progesterone, levonorgestrel. So every 10 years you need to remove it. So it is again as effective and better than copper T because it is third generation. So what are the mechanism of action? Mechanism of action is it causes foreign body reaction. The copper T especially causes foreign body reaction, impairs viability of gametes, reduce the chances of fertilization and implants. Enhances the cellular response, affects the enzymes and alters the cervical mucus. They may affect the sperm motility as well. Now what the hormonal does is it increases the viscosity of the cervical mucosa and maintains high level of estrogen and progesterone. Okay, cervical mucosa is altered and high levels of estrogen and low levels of progesterone in the uterus is maintained, so it hampers the implantation of the zygote. Now the ideal IUD candidate, in whom to insert the IUD? Who is the ideal IUD candidate? Who has born at least one child, has no history of pelvic inflammatory disease or any other pelvic disease, has normal menstrual periods, is willing to check the IUD tail regularly, okay, has access to follow up and treatment of potential problems, so that they can come in any case there is a complication. Preferably in a monogamous relationship. The federation does not, however, rule out women who do not conform to this profile. It is not a fixed criteria that only this woman will be given IUD, but the more the woman match the criteria, the better the effectivity of IUD are. So when to insert? Any time, preferred during menstruation or within 10 days of the beginning of the menstrual period. Okay, at that time it is easy to insert. So either during menstruation or within 10 days of the beginning of the menstruation period. Now after delivery, when to give that IUD, it is within 48 hours of delivery, immediate postpartum insertion, or if it has crossed that part or crossed that time, then 6 to 8 weeks after the delivery. That is the post-puerperal insertion. Okay. So postpartum IUD insertion is there, and there is the interval IUD also normally when the clients want to do a spacing of birth. So IUD has many advantages. It is simple to insert, simple to do. Any trained ANM also can do it. Okay. Insertion takes only a few minutes. Once inserted, IUD stays in place as long as required. It is inexpensive. Contraceptive effect is reversible by removal of IUD. So when you remove the IUD, then again the person can conceive a child whenever they decide that they want to take a child now. Virtually free of systematic metabolic side effects. There can be many side effects in other methods, but in this, the systematic effects are very low. Highest continuation rate. There is no need for the continual motivation to take a pill daily. So the patient is, they are agreeing to take this treatment because only once in 10 years they need to come and change. Okay, so that is, the patient adherence is good. Only a single act of motivation is required. However, as with most contraceptive methods, there can be many side effects as well. So what are the side effects? First of all, let's see what are the contraindications. Absolute and relative contraindications, these also come as question, right? Absolute contraindication of IUD insertion is pregnancy, pelvic inflammatory disease, undiagnosed vaginal bleeding, there is a cancer of cervix, uterus or adnexa, and history of ectopic pregnancy. In those cases, the IUD insertion is contraindicated absolutely. And what are the relative contraindication? There is anemia, like severe anemia or moderate anemia. There is menorrhagia, history of PID in the last pregnancy. Okay? Purulent cervical discharge, congenital deformity, then unmotivated person and abnormally shaped uterus. So in these cases only the contraindicators, there is a contraindication of IUD. Okay, in these relative cases it is depending case by case. If the patient has anemia but there is low chance of bleeding, you have evaluated, then you can give the IUD. Okay, but in these cases you cannot give the IUD at all because in pregnancy it can cause the abortion, right? So in pregnancy, in PID, it can increase the infection. Undiagnosed vaginal bleeding, because the side effect is bleeding of this IUD. So if there is vaginal bleeding already, you cannot insert there, so that the bleeding will increase otherwise. Okay. There is a cancer, of course, at that point you cannot introduce a foreign body there, and there is a history of ectopic pregnancy because the side effect of this IUD is ectopic pregnancy as well. So in these cases you cannot give the IUD. So now what are the side effects? There is a bleeding is a commonest side effect, okay. Bleeding or spotting between periods resolves within 1 to 2 months usually. And it is occurring more with the non-medicated devices like copper, okay. Pain is the second most common side effect during or after insertion and during menstruation as well. So what happens is there is a low back pain, there is a cramps, but after some months it disappears usually. Third is the pelvic inflammatory disease. This can also cause pelvic inflammatory disease. PID, so what is PID? It is caused by the organisms, you know this, I am not going into details. So this Gardnerella, anaerobic streptococci, Bacteroides, coliform, Actinomyces, these all cause PID in women, and this can be caused because the foreign body is inserted into the uterus. And the clinical manifestations are of the PID, what is that? There is a vaginal discharge, there is a pelvic pain, there is a tenderness. So all this history, if it is there, if you are seeing in the patient that PID has occurred after insertion of the copper T, then you have to motivate the patient to come to the hospital and under observation take it out, okay. Under observation and under strict aseptic conditions to take it out and then take medication. Once the patient has been infected with PID after copper T insertion, it has to be taken out. Other side effects are ectopic pregnancy, there can be expulsion, there can be perforation of the uterus, and there can be pregnancy also. There is a failure rate associated with it. 50% of pregnancy end up in abortion with the IUD, so there is failure rate, and then there can be abortion also. If the patient is already pregnant, there can be abortion. Okay, but there is a side effect of the pregnancy, that is the failure rate. So now there is another criteria that whatever in pregnancy, in those cases what can happen, what does the woman want. If the woman requests an induced abortion, this is legally available, okay. If the woman wishes to continue with the pregnancy and the threads are visible, the device should be removed by gently pulling the threads. If the patient has become pregnant in some cases, in spite of IUD insertion, so then the patient has to remove the IUD. And if the woman wishes to continue with the pregnancy and the threads are not visible, there should be careful examination for possible complications. There are any signs of intrauterine infection or sepsis, then the evacuation of the uterus is done. So this is the side effect, the management of the side effects that can be there with the IUD. Finally, we come to the hormonal contraceptives. Now, there can be oral tablets or there can be injection, right? So what are the oral tablets and what are the injections? Oral tablets can be combined oral contraceptive pill, and there can be single preparation like mini pill, okay, or levonorgestrel, that is there. And the parenteral means the injection, that is there, that is the injectables and the implants. Implants are also under the parenteral formulation of the hormonal contraceptive. So hormonal contraceptives are the most effective among the spacing methods. The failure rate is less than 1. It is mostly female sex steroids. The estrogen, progesterone, sex steroids, those are mainly the composition of the hormonal pill. So firstly, there is the combined oral contraceptive pill. There is the Mala N and the Mala D. These are the names or the brand names of that under the government. So what does it consist of? It is consist of the levonorgestrel and ethinyl estradiol. Usually in the government formulation it is levonorgestrel and the ethinyl estradiol. And number of tablets that is present in this Mala and Mala D, there is a 21 plus 7 tablets. 21 tablets, that is a hormonal, and 7 tablets are the iron or the ferrous sulfate. Okay. So that is aligned with the menstrual cycle of the woman, that is 28 days. So what are the contraindications? Absolute circulatory disease, severe hypertension, angina, ischemic heart disease, any other liver disease, tumors, of course in pregnancy, breast cancer and breastfeeding. Relative contraindication, if age is more than 40 years and smoker, history of jaundice and diabetes. This is a relative contraindication, but these are the absolute contraindication of giving an OCP to someone. You cannot just prescribe an OCP to anyone. You have to first take their history well and then see whether they are suitable for taking OCP or not. So this is how the Mala N and the Mala D look like. This pink tablet, that is the Mala N, and the blue tablet is called Mala D. It is Mala N is there for the, in the government setup, it is free of cost, right? It is free of cost, and the Mala D is available in the market. Mala D costs like 3 to 4 rupees per strip, but you have to pay for it, and Mala N is freely available from the government. So these are the two formulations that are there provided by the government under OCP, Mala N and Mala D. So you can see there is a levonorgestrel, ethinyl estradiol and ferrous fumarate tablets. 21 tablets of the hormonal tablets and ferrous fumarate tablets for the 7 days, that is during the menstruation. That is when the menstruation will happen in the menstrual cycle. At that time, to prevent the anemia, there is the ferrous fumarate tablet. What are the benefits? Contraceptive benefits, obviously it prevents unwanted pregnancy and convenient to use. What are the non-contraceptive benefits? Regulation of menstrual cycle. Someone's menstrual cycle is very irregular. You can give them OCP if the contraindications are not there. Then reduction of dysmenorrhea. Painful menstruation if present, you can give them OCP. Protection against PID, fibroids, ovarian cysts, chances of ovarian and endometrial cancer. So in these cases, if the patient wants to take and regulate and prevent these diseases, then they can take the OCP. What are the side effects? There is the dizziness, nausea, weight gain, headache, breast tenderness, vaginal infection. Okay, then this mild HPN, depression, increased blood clotting. So again, you can see from the contraindications in the previous slides that in those cases only you cannot use OCP, because OCP can cause these side effects. It can cause weight gain, headache, breast tenderness, vaginal infection. Okay, then there is the increased blood clotting, thicker viscosity of the blood it can cause, and other side effects. Now after combined oral contraceptive pill, there is the progesterone only pill or the mini pill. It contains just progesterone or the progesterone hormone. It causes plug of mucus in the neck of the cervix and blocks the entry of the sperm. That is the mechanism of action. For example, levonorgestrel 75, desogestrel 75, in these formulations the mini pill or the progesterone only pill is used. Advantages: because it does not have an estrogen in it, it does not have an effect on the breast. That is, no side effect on breastfeeding or lactation. It may be prescribed in patient having diabetes, hypertension, smoking, etc. So those contraindications that was there in the OCP, if those are present in the patient, then you can give them the POP or the progesterone only pills, and it also reduces the risk of PID. Disadvantages: there is acne, mastalgia and headache. Only very few non-severe side effects. So you can give them progesterone only pills if they are not suitable for the combined oral contraceptive pill. Okay, it again looks like this. You have to take it for a certain period of time. Now we have done the pills or the oral formulations. Now what is there? There is the long-acting contraceptive or the parenteral contraceptives are there. They are suitable for women who do not want to be pregnant again for a few years. So these are contraceptive injections, implants, patches. In the government, the contraceptive injection is available as Onthora. It looks like this. It contains progesterone hormone. It prevents ovulation. Okay. It is commonly used as depot-methoxyprogesterone acetate DMPA administered intramuscularly in the deltoid within 5 days of the cycle. Dose is 150 grams and they provide the protection for 3 months, that is 90 days. After 3 months again the patient has to come and take another dose. So in this way she can regulate. So what happens is every 3 months only once the patient has to come. So the adherence to this formulation is better. Okay, only one dose is there. So this Onthora, the medroxyprogesterone acetate is there. It prevents the ovulation, that is it prevents the LH surge that leads to the rupture of the follicle and the ovum is expelled at that time. So at that time only the ovulation is prevented by the DMPA. What is the implants? These implants are small devices that are placed under the skin. It contains the progesterone hormone and works in the similar way as injection. It contains 3-keto-desogestrel. It releases hormone about 60 microgram and gradually reduced to 30 microgram over a year, and inhibits ovulation again in the same way. and it lasts usually for 3 years. One implant can last usually for 3 years. For example, Norplant, 2 rods of 4 centimeter long, each rod containing 75 milligram levonorgestrel release about 50 microgram per day. Another upgrade from the implant. So, very commercially available implant is the Norplant nowadays. So, that can be also there for the patient. Next comes the emergency contraceptives. This is used within 72 hours. Used within 72 hours, ovulation is either prevented or delayed, okay, at that time. 72 hours of unwanted, unprotected intercourse. So, it may be in the form of hormones, IUD, antiprogesterone. So, in this way, all the other methods are used. So, what we are seeing here, the hormonal pill that is used as an emergency contraceptive called the easy pill, okay, easy pill. Indications are unprotected intercourse, condom rupture, sexual assault. In these cases, emergency contraceptives can be taken. And these emergency contraceptives are like this: levonorgestrel easy pill. It is of formulation 1.5 milligram, or there are 2 tablets of 0.75 milligram. You can take 12 hours separately. Then there is the OCP ethinyl estradiol 100 microgram and levonorgestrel 0.5 milligram, again taken at the gap of 12 hours. There is the conjugated estrogen, thionyl estradiol, mifepristone, and copper iodide also. So, all these devices and methods can be used as an emergency contraceptive, okay. What is the mechanism of action? It prevents the release of ovum by blocking the pituitary secretion of the FSH and the LH, or the gonadotropin. Then the POP, that is the progesterone only pill, what it does? It renders the cervical mucosa thick and scanty, inhibit the sperm penetration, and effectiveness almost 100% effective if used, taken properly, okay. So, this is the most effective spacing method, that is the hormonal method. And there is a non-hormonal pill, there is non-steroidal non-hormonal pill that is used as a contraceptive again under the government, that is called Chaya. Chaya is the world's first and only non-steroidal contraceptive pill. It is sencroman or meloxifene 30 milligram. It is the only non-steroidal pill with the 0 side effects, but there is a failure rate of 1 to 2 per 100 woman years. It is the most convenient and safest mode of contraception with a doses of 2 pills per week for the first 3 months, followed by 1 pill per week for after 3 months. So, in this dosage, the sencroman or the Chaya tablets are taken if someone has a contraindication to steroids. It looks like this, the Chaya or the sencroman tablets will be written. Then finally, there is the natural family methods. There is no introduction of foreign material in the body. Some clients or patients practice this if they do not want to take any contraceptive, but the problem is the failure rate is very high in this natural methods. Like there is no introduction of chemical or foreign material. Best practice may be due to religious belief, natural way is best for them. Then effectiveness varies greatly. It depends on the couple's ability to refrain from having the intercourse on the fertile days. So it is depending heavily on the patient and their practices. Okay, so there is also high failure rate as well, about 25%, but it poses no risk to the fetus. If there is a pregnancy, there is no risk to the fetus, but there is a high risk of failure. So these are the natural family planning methods, like the rhythm of the calendar method, okay, basal body temperature, ovulation or cervical mucus method, symptothermal method, coitus interruptus, and lactational amenorrhea. So these are the 6 methods that are the natural family planning methods. You should know the names at least of all of them. Okay. The rhythm of the calendar method, basal body temperature, ovulation of the cervical mucus method, symptothermal method, coitus interruptus, and lactational amenorrhea. Now just a little insight into each of these methods. The rhythm of the calendar method, it is also called the fertility awareness method. So it is how to use it. It is couples calculate a woman's fertile time using a calendar. So abstaining from coitus on the days of menstrual cycle when a woman is most likely to conceive. So during the days, the fertile period, that is when the couple will abstain from any intercourse. So that is the calendar method. So how will you calculate from the calendar method that when not to have intercourse? So this method can be used by women whose menstrual cycles are always between 26 to 32 days. So it is fairly regular. The woman has to be fairly regular in a menstrual cycle to adopt this method. To calculate, you have to take from the shortest cycle documented from the patient. The shortest cycle days, that is the gap between two menstrual period, that is the shortest menstrual cycle. So you subtract 18 from it, and then from the longest cycle you subtract 11 from it, so that is the range. For example, if she has 6 menstrual cycles and then ranging from 25 to 29 days, fertile period would be from the 7th day. That is 25 days the shortest cycle documented, right? So 25 days minus 18 you do it, so that is 7, and then the longest number of menstrual cycle days is 29. You subtract 11 from it and there is 18. So from the 7th day to the 18th day of her cycle in general, the couple can conceive, there can be failure of any contraceptive method. So that is when the couple will abstain from the intercourse. So from the 7th to the 18th day. So this is how you calculate from the calendar methods of the woman that when she should not have the intercourse. To avoid pregnancy, avoid using coitus or contraceptive during those days, or use contraceptive during those days. Avoid the coitus or use contraceptive. So this is the calendar method, but this is again not applicable for a lot of women because the menstrual cycles can be irregular. So in irregular menstrual cycle, this cannot be used. Disadvantages, the reliability is not good, and the lifespan of sperm. Even if they are not having intercourse during that fertile period, the sperm's viability within the uterus can be up to 7 to 10 days, right? So even after that period, if the sperm still stays in the uterus, then the woman can be pregnant. So there is a failure of method. Next is the basal body temperature. Identifying the fertile and infertile methods of a woman's cycle by taking the daily temperature, recording the rise in the body temperature during and after ovulation. Just before ovulation, what happens is a woman's basal body temperature falls about 0.5 Fahrenheit. At the time of ovulation, again the basal body temperature rises. So this highest level is maintained the rest of the menstrual cycle. Now this is again very unreliable method. So this has a high failure rate. Just by taking the temperature of the body before and after the surge, LH surge, so that is not very convenient to take. Not reliable method of birth control, especially for women with irregular cycle, plus outside factors such as lack of sleep can cause a woman's temperature to vary. Third is the cervical mucus method. That is, cervical mucus is a fluid produced by the small glands near the cervix, as we all know. This fluid changes throughout the cycle from scant to sticky, from cloudy and thick to slick and stringy. So the consistency of the cervical mucus changes with the menstrual cycle. Okay, each of these type of mucus related to the hormonal shift. So the hormones that are there, lower level of progesterone or higher level of progesterone, they affect the consistency or the appearance of the cervical mucus. Right before ovulation, the mucus from the cervix changes from being cloudy and scanty to being clear and slippery. Okay, like the egg white, and it can be stretched between the fingers. It is the peak of her fertility. At that time, if the woman is noticing that the cervical mucus has changed to this consistency, then she can prevent the intercourse and prevent the pregnancy. After the ovulation, the mucus tends to dry up again. These are also safe days. The ideal failure rate is 3%. This is a high failure rate, kind of 3 to 4%, but it can be, if the woman is very, they can be observant and they can maintain this cycle, then it's okay. Otherwise, it can also have a high chance of accidental pregnancies. Disadvantages, it is not particularly reliable method of birth control, especially for women with irregular cycles. Remember, the cervical mucus does not let you know when you will soon be ovulating, but the sperm can live up to 7 days inside the vagina. Any sperm deposited ahead of time can still impregnate the woman. Okay, so again, for these all reasons, these natural methods are very unreliable. Symptothermal method, it combines the cervical mucus and the basal body temperature. Both these methods are combined and can be used. Watch for mid-cycle abdominal pain. Couple must abstain from intercourse until 3 days after rise in temperature or the 4th day after peak of the mucus change. If you combine the two, then the failure rate is a little bit less, but still it is kind of unreliable. Coitus interruptus, one of the oldest known methods of contraception, couple proceeds with coitus until the moment of ejaculation, which offers little protection. So that is also dependent on the couple. And finally, the lactational amenorrhea method, that is a LAM. The short form of lactational amenorrhea method is a LAM. So it is a natural birth control technique based on the fact that lactation, breast milk production causes amenorrhea, lack of menstruation. So at that time the mother is naturally protected against pregnancy, further pregnancy. During that time the mother is breastfeeding her child. How it works? Breastfeeding interferes with the release of the hormones needed to trigger ovulation. Right? Advantages: breastfeeding on demand improves health for the mother and the baby, and nothing to buy or use. This is a very natural method that can be used by the mother for at least the first few months. That is very effective if the mother is properly breastfeeding the baby. If the mother is not breastfeeding, then she is not having this lactational amenorrhea method effective. If she is properly and effectively breastfeeding the baby, then it improves both their health and it is providing a natural contraception for the mother. Disadvantages: use this method only for the first 6 months after birth and or until the first menstrual period. Now, with the mother's menstrual period again starts, then the LAM is no longer effective. LAM is no longer effective. LAM does not provide protection against sexually transmitted infections. Okay? So that LAM can be used in conjunction with another contraceptive method, for example condom. So if you use it effectively, then until the woman's beginning of the menstrual period, that method can be used side by side and the contraception can be achieved by the couple. Now a little bit about the permanent sterilization. We know there is vasectomy for the males and the tubectomy for the females. These are the most effective methods. Its failure rate is 1 per 2000. So in this is permanent termination. So what happens is the patient will be permanently sterilized. There is no spacing on temporary, it is permanently sterilized. So the patient will no longer have any more child in their life. So vasectomy, there is a small incision made on each side of the scrotum and the vas deferens is then cut and tied. So the way of the sperm motility or the way of the sperm that is formed and then ejaculated, that is cut. Okay? It is cut and tied, cauterized or plugged, blocking the passage of the spermatozoa. It does not interfere with the production of the sperms, but it is interfering with the transport of the sperm. So it does not pass beyond the vas deferens. So on both sides of the scrotum there is a scalpel you cut and then take out the vas deferens and then cut and tie the vas deferens. Advantages: very effective after 3 months of procedure, permanent and safe, no apparent long-term risks. Okay, there is no long-term risk of the vasectomy. Disadvantages: slightly uncomfortable due to slight pain and swelling after 2 to 3 days of the procedure. Bleeding may result in the hematoma, the scrotum, okay, and the risks are substantially reduced in the no scalpel vasectomy. Now, if you are cutting with the scalpel on the scrotum and then taking out, there can be hematoma and pain. But if you use the another method of vasectomy, that is a no scalpel vasectomy, that is used nowadays in the government setup, then you are not even using the scalpel to cut on both sides of the scrotum. You are using just punching a small hole, okay, that is not a big wound, punching a small hole, taking out the vas deferens, cutting and tying it, okay, and then putting it back, and that hole also heals within a few days. So it is a no scalpel vasectomy. So even the hematoma risk is reduced in that no scalpel vasectomy technique. Okay. So this is how the no scalpel vasectomy is done. You hold it, punch a hole, take out the vas deferens, correct it, and then there are no stitches also, and it heals after 7 days. So it is very, risk is very reduced in case of the vasectomy. Now the tubectomy, or it is also called the ligation. It is in the females where the fallopian tubes are cut, right? The fallopian tubes are cut and tied in this way. Tubectomy is the operative methods where resection of both segments of the fallopian tubes are done to achieve permanent sterilization. It can be approached abdominally or vaginally. So it is abdominally, it is conventional method, and mini laparotomy can be done. Conventional means in which a loop is made by holding the tube and by Allis forceps. So the loop, you create a loop and then you cut the loop and tie it up. That is the main thing. Where you do it? It mainly at the isthmus and the ampullary part of the fallopian tube. The loop is ligated with catgut and is cut. Mini laparotomy when the tubectomy is done through the small abdominal incision along with some device. So these conventional and mini laparotomy are the abdominal ways, and then there is a vaginal ligation. Tubectomy through vaginal route may be done along with vaginal plastic operation or on isolation. So this is the way of tubectomy. And what are the complications? Finally, the ectopic pregnancy can be there, menstrual irregularity can be there is a loss of libido, and there can be infection resulting from the operation. So these are the complications of the tubectomy. Okay. So this is in general the family planning methods or the contraceptive methods. Okay. Because we are short of time, any questions you have, you can ask me in the department later. Okay. Thank you.